A guy pulling a fifth wheel felt his Godzilla lurch into gear at a stoplight and figured his transmission was dying. It wasn't dying. Ford has published 3 free checks and factory remedies for a used 2020 or newer Godzilla that most owners never learn to ask for. A transmission reprogram tied to a service bulletin, a software fix that goes after the root cause behind an engine issue you've probably heard about, and a fluid interval, Ford's own manual undersells for anyone who tows. I'm handing you all 3 bulletin numbers today, plus the VIN check that confirms whether your specific truck already has them. I am also clearing up a warranty number that gets repeated wrong across half the videos on this exact truck, including some from owners who've put serious miles behind the wheel. By the end, you'll know precisely what to ask for before you hand over a check. Let's start with the truck itself, because most of what you'll hear about it is good news. Ford introduced the 7.3-liter gas V8 in the 2020 Super Duty lineup, and truck owners nicknamed it Godzilla almost immediately, mostly because of its size and because it just sounded right for a big block gas engine going back into a heavy-duty truck after years of diesel dominating that segment. It's a big, simple, pushrod engine, and simple is usually a compliment in this world. Fewer moving parts than a modern diesel, no emissions plumbing to babysit, no expensive fluid to top off every few thousand miles, and a reputation among owners for being dependable when it's running right. Ford paired it with a new 10-speed automatic, the 10R140, built to handle serious towing loads and shared with some of Ford's own diesel applications. In most driveways, this combination works well. Owners who've put well over 100,000 miles on theirs describe it as a solid, honest truck that starts every time and doesn't nickel and dime them. Forum consensus across owner groups backs that up. Most people who cross shopped a diesel and switched to a gas Godzilla report relief, not regret, especially once they stopped budgeting for diesel fuel and diesel exhaust fluid. Nothing in this video is here to talk you out of buying one. This video gives you 3 specific, free things Ford itself has published, plus 1 warranty distinction almost nobody explains correctly, so you can shop with confidence instead of guessing. These aren't rumors from a forum. They're documented bulletins and programs with numbers attached, and every single one of them is something you can check on a specific truck using nothing but its VIN, usually while you're still standing on the lot. If you're looking at a used Godzilla for towing a camper, hauling equipment for a project, or just wanting a truck that'll outlast the next couple decades of retirement, this is the exact list a mechanic who works on these trucks for a living would hand you before you looked at a single listing written down, not recited from memory, at the lot. You're test driving a used Godzilla. You pull away from a stoplight and the transmission clunks or lurches into gear instead of shifting smoothly. Some owners describe it as gear hunting. Others call it morning sickness because it tends to show up worse on a cold engine first thing in the morning and settle down once everything's warmed through. Your first thought is transmission failure. For a lot of early Godzilla trucks, that's the wrong conclusion, and expensive worry is exactly what Ford's bulletin was written to prevent. Ford issued Technical Service Bulletin 21-2420 in November of 2021, superseding an earlier bulletin from a few months prior, and it covers harsh engagement, harsh shifts, and delayed shifts specifically on 2020 model year Super Duty trucks with the 10R140. The fix starts with a reprogram of the transmission control module and the powertrain control module. If that alone doesn't fully resolve it, the bulletin also covers a valve body inspection or overhaul. This isn't a guess pulled from a comment section. It's a documented Ford bulletin sitting in Ford's own service system, and any dealer can pull it up against the right VIN in about the time it takes to pour a coffee. 2 owners confirmed this independently, without prompting each other, which is worth trusting. One posted that his dealer told him straight out, quote, "The TSB is for a reprogram on the transmission and the ECU. Unfortunately, you got a first-year 10-speed." Another owner, with under 50,000 miles on his truck, said his dealer was fixing the same clunky, hard shifting behavior under warranty, citing that same bulletin number unprompted. Two different owners, two different dealers, a few hundred miles apart, landing on the identical fix. For you as a buyer standing in front of a used one, if you're looking at a 2020 model year Godzilla specifically, sometimes called a first-year 10-speed in owner circles, that harsh shift you might feel on a test drive isn't automatically a death sentence for the transmission. It might just mean the truck hasn't had this update done yet. Ask the dealer or the private seller directly using this exact wording, "Has TSB 21-2420 been performed on this VIN?" Write the number down before you go, because reciting it by name signals you have done your homework, and it tends to get you a straighter answer instead of a shrug. The reprogram itself does not take long, and it does not require pulling the transmission apart in most cases. A technician connects to the truck's computer, flashes the updated calibration into both modules, and road tests it. If the harsh shift persists after that, the bulletin's next step is a physical inspection of the valve body, a bigger job, but still nowhere near a full transmission replacement. That distinction matters, because a seller who does not know the bulletin exists might assume any shifting complaint means a total transmission failure, and price the truck accordingly low, or avoid mentioning it at all. That's the smaller of the two software surprises I found while digging into this truck for you. If you have made it this far, go ahead and subscribe now, because the second update is the one I have not seen a single other channel connect to what's coming next, and it is the more important of the two by a wide margin. If you've spent any time in truck forums, you've heard the rumor about the Godzilla, camshaft, and lifter delamination. It is a failure mode that does happen, and when it does, it is expensive, commonly cited in the $12,000 to $14,000 range for a full long block replacement out of warranty. One self-selected owner survey on Facebook, with roughly 600 respondents, put the reported failure rate at around 2%, mostly showing up in the 30,000 to 40,000 mile range rather than later in a truck's life. That's a small, informal, anecdotal number, not an official Ford failure rate, and nobody, including Ford, has published statistics here. It's the reason most people typing Godzilla problems into a search bar land on this exact worry before they've even test-driven a truck. Almost nobody talks about this next part, and it's why I wanted to make this video. In May of 2024, Ford issued Customer Satisfaction Program 24B27, covering 2020 through 2024 Super Duty trucks and certain Econoline vans built with the 6.8 and 7.3 liter engines. It's a free software update to the powertrain control module that recalibrates the variable displacement oil pump, so the engine builds higher oil pressure while it's idling. Higher idle pressure means better lubrication reaching the lifters at low RPM, sitting at a stoplight, idling in a driveway, or crawling through a campground at walking speed with a trailer behind you. That's the root cause, one step upstream of the symptom, and it's the difference between this update and a lot of the aftermarket advice floating around. This update doesn't undo damage that's already happened. If a truck's cam and lifters are already worn or already showing metal in the oil, this program won't reverse that. It prevents new damage going forward, which matters most on a used truck you're about to buy rather than one you've owned since new. You want the truck that's had this update running since as early in its life as possible. This is checkable by VIN, completely free, and it's the update most used. Godzilla buyer guides online skip entirely, because most of them cover the engine or the transmission, almost never both. and none that I found connect these two specific bulletin numbers into one buying checklist. Ask specifically, has customer satisfaction program 24B27 been applied to this truck? Write that number down right next to the first one and ask for it in writing on the service history if the truck has one. There's also a free thing you can do yourself on any used Godzilla you're seriously considering, update applied or not. Pull the oil dipstick and look closely at the film on it under good light. Owners who've dealt with early lifter wear often describe a fine, sparkly glitter in the oil, metal shedding from a worn lifter or cam lobe. It's not a lab test, and it won't catch a problem in its earliest stage, but it costs nothing, takes 30 seconds, and it's the kind of hands-on check that separates a casual buyer from one who's done the homework on this specific engine. Do it before you even start the truck, so you're looking at oil that's had time to settle, not oil that's been churned up by a fresh test drive. The third item costs a little money, but it's the cheapest insurance in this entire video. Ford's official published service interval for the 10R140's transmission fluid and filter is 150,000 miles under normal conditions. That's the number printed in the owner's manual, and it's not wrong for the conditions it's describing, but normal conditions leaves out a lot. Ford does not publish a separate, official, severe duty interval for heavy towing, and mechanics along with experienced long-haul owners consistently recommend servicing that fluid much earlier if you're regularly pulling a trailer or a fifth wheel, somewhere in the 30,000 to 50,000 mile range instead. That's not an official Ford number. It's widely shared, practical advice from people who've put serious towing miles on their own trucks and watched what happens to the fluid. Heat is the reason. Towing heavy loads runs a transmission hotter, more often, for longer stretches, and heat breaks fluid down faster than mileage alone ever would. That harder, clunkier shift feels some owners describe as chewing your seat on a hard downshift is sometimes just tired fluid doing a worse job than it used to, long before 150,000 miles roll around. If you're buying a used Godzilla specifically to tow, ask when the transmission fluid was last serviced, and don't assume the factory interval alone protects you if the truck's history includes serious towing work. A fluid service is a small, predictable cost sitting next to a transmission repair, and it's the one item on this entire list that's fully in your hands after you buy it, not something you're waiting on Ford or a dealer to fix for you. A private seller who's owned the truck 5 years and towed a boat every summer weekend has put a very different kind of wear on that fluid than a fleet truck that mostly hauled empty around town. The odometer can't tell you that story, but a service record can, and if there isn't one, plan on having the fluid changed shortly after you buy, the same way you'd budget for new tires on a truck with worn tread. It's cheap enough that it shouldn't be a deal breaker on an otherwise good truck, but it's exactly the kind of detail buyers skip when they're only looking at price and mileage. And it's the difference between a fluid change now and a transmission bill in a year or two. If you do end up towing regularly yourself once it's your truck, this is the one item on the list you get to control going forward. Set your own earlier interval, keep a simple log, and you've closed the single biggest gap between what Ford prints in the manual and what heavy towing demands of this transmission. This next part might surprise some of you, including anyone who's watched other videos about this exact truck. There's a popular video where a Godzilla owner, on camera, with a towing story behind him, says his factory warranty covers his truck to 100,000 miles. He's an owner with a documented truck and a documented experience, and he's simply wrong about which warranty he's describing, through no fault of his own. Ford's factory powertrain warranty on the gas. 7.3 Godzilla is 5 years or 60,000 miles, whichever comes first. That's the number that applies to the truck sitting in front of you when you buy it used, assuming it's still within that original window from the day it was first sold new. The 100,000-mile figure that gets repeated so often, across videos and forum posts alike, belongs to the diesel Power Stroke engine in this same truck lineup, not the gas Godzilla sitting next to it on the lot. If a seller's truck does carry coverage out to 100,000 miles, it's very likely a Ford Blue Oval Certified Extended Warranty, purchased separately by a previous owner or added at a dealership, not the base factory coverage a lot of buyers assume comes standard on every Super Duty. Why does this matter to you specifically as a buyer? If you're shopping a used Godzilla and the seller or a dealer tells you it's still under its 100,000-mile factory warranty, ask a follow-up question before you get excited about the coverage. Is that the original factory powertrain warranty? Or is that a Blue Oval Certified Extended Warranty? Those are two different documents, with different transferability rules and different price tags behind them. And confusing them could leave you thinking a major repair is covered when it isn't. That's the moment a used truck purchase turns expensive. This isn't a knock on the owner in that other video. He's sharing his honest experience, and his truck almost certainly is covered out to 100,000 miles. He almost certainly just has the certified extended coverage, not the base factory warranty. And dealerships aren't always the ones drawing the distinction clearly at the time of sale either, which is part of why the two get talked about like they're the same thing constantly, in comment sections and in videos alike. The mix-up costs someone money instead of just being a technicality, and it's easy to see how. Say you're looking at a truck with 80,000 miles on it, and the seller mentions it's still under warranty to 100,000. You do the math, decide the remaining miles cover you fine, and skip a proper transmission or engine inspection because you figure Ford's got you covered either way. If that truck only carries the base 5-year, 60,000-mile factory coverage and the 100,000 the seller remembers was a Blue Oval certified add-on that didn't transfer to a second owner, or was priced into the sale and you didn't realize it, you've just skipped an inspection you needed. That's why this distinction earns its own place on this list, right next to the 2 free bulletins. If you've seen that video, or one just like it, drop a comment below and tell me which warranty you have documented on your own truck, and how many miles you had on it at the time, because a good number of you have probably never had a dealer sit down and explain the difference either. Where does that leave you if you're shopping for one of these trucks right now? The short version, the one to write on a sticky note before you go look at a truck, the 7.3 Godzilla and the 10R140 transmission are, taken together, a solid combination, and nothing in this video should discourage you from a well-kept one. But a used Godzilla isn't a truck you shop blind, and it isn't a truck where it drives fine is the whole inspection. Before you sign anything, write down 3 questions for the seller or the dealer. Has Technical Service Bulletin 21-2420, the transmission reprogram, been performed on this VIN? Has Customer Satisfaction Program 24B27, the oil pump update, been applied to this truck? And when was the transmission fluid last serviced, especially if this truck has any towing history behind it? Any dealer can answer all 3 in a few minutes using the VIN sitting on the door jamb, and neither of the first 2 should cost you a single dollar if they haven't been done yet. Add one more line to that list for yourself. Separate from the 3 checks. Confirm whether the warranty you're being told about is the factory 5-year, 60,000-mile coverage, or a Blue Oval certified extension layered on top of it, because those are not the same document and they are not the same protection. Do all of that, and you're not gambling on a used Godzilla anymore. You're buying with roughly the same information a dealership technician has sitting in front of them. which is how a big purchase like this should feel at this stage of life. Whether it's towing the grandkids' camper across 3 states, or just finally getting the truck you've wanted for years, paid for, and parked in your own driveway. The guy from the start of this video, the one who felt his transmission lurch pulling a 5th wheel, assumed the worst. His truck was fine once the reprogram was done, and the only thing that cost him anything was the couple of weeks he spent worrying about a repair bill that was never coming. None of these 3 checks are complicated. None of them require a mechanic's toolbox, and 2 of them don't cost a cent. They just require knowing the right 3 numbers to ask for before you're standing in a dealership parking lot, with a pen in your hand and a seller waiting on an answer. If this saved you from asking the wrong question at the wrong lot, subscribe for the rest of this series and tell me in the comments which of these 3 checks you didn't already know about before today.